Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my August Buzzwordathon reading vlog. So the Buzzwordathon readathon is hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. Each month there is a prompt word and a cover prompt challenge for the Buzzwordathon, and this month we have, for the picture on the, or for the thing on the cover, we have transportation, and I'm planning on reading Quiet in Her Bones by Nalini SIngh. And for the buzzword, which is with, I'm planning on reading The Pub with No Food by Rachel Armstrong. So I'm really excited to dive into this vlog. I am hopefully going to be starting it today when I head off. Well, I'm traveling and heading to the hockey this afternoon, so I'm hoping to get some reading in. And as with all of these vlogs, after I have read a book for one of the prompts, I will give you some recommendations for other books that you might like to try that feature the prompt. Stay tuned, and I will be back with an update when I have started reading the books. Hi everyone, so I'm back with an update for the Buzzwordathon vlog, and it is not going well. It is not going well this month. I literally don't have any vlog footage because I forgot. Oh, actually no, I can insert a clip from the end of the hockey game yesterday because it was hilarious. We won. I was very grateful. I started reading The Pub with No Food by Rachel Armstrong. I got a couple of chapters in and decided that I just was not interested, could not care less about the book, and so I have stopped reading that, which then prompted me to then go investigate if I have any other books with in the title. The only other one that I have currently on my Kindle is a e-arc of Within the Space of a Second, which does not come out until November, and I would like to read it closer to the due date, and even then the part of my brain that goes within is not the same as with, so it's technically not answering the prompt, although it is. I'm going to save it for closer before release date. Also, I think it'll be a good one to read in October-ish. So then I found a book that I had sitting in my Kindle Unlimited wish list, which was How to Flirt with a Witch by Tiana Warner, and I started it, and it is a sapphic paranormal romance about a girl who has a cursed kitten, and she takes it to a vet, and the vet deals in special cases. I didn't get very far into the book because the one thing I couldn't get over is that every time our main character meets this veterinarian, who she's very attracted to, the veterinarian appears to be purring her words at her, and I'm like, how does a person purr their words? That's weird. Now maybe she's a shifter, but even then, in their human form, it sounded weird. And I'm just like, the power differential didn't seem great. So I've also DNF'd that. So we're down 2 DNFs, which we're doing well. We're doing well. I did start Quiet in Her Bones by Nalini SIngh as an audiobook when I was going grocery shopping this morning. So I have started that. I will talk about that a little bit later when I can probably talk about it now. It is a really interesting book. So we are in the perspective of Arev, who is an author. He writes crime novels. He's very successful. He also is the son of a very successful businessman. They live in New Zealand, and years earlier, Arev's mother disappeared and supposedly stole millions. And we learn straight away that his parents' relationship was not great. They were both having affairs, they were both arguing about it, and like the home environment was not great. And all Arev remembers of the night that his mother disappeared is that he heard her scream, and then she was gone. And now in the present day, her car has been found down the edge of a hill in the local forest area that's close by the cul-de-sac where they live, and the police have come to inform the family that they have found her body after 10 years or whatever it's been. Arev is set up to be a very unreliable narrator. He's currently on crutches from an accident that he's been in. We know he's in therapy. We also know that he's being told things that he doesn't remember happening. I'm curious to see what this setup is going to be, whether it is someone else who is responsible for his mother's disappearance, or whether it's Arev himself. Don't remember how far I am into it. I'm not going to read any more of it today, so that will be something we come back to at a later point. But how far did I get? I'm on chapter 17 of 63 plus an epilogue, so I'm not that far into it. It's very gripping. The audio narrator for it is great. I don't know who it is. I'll look it up when I review the book. But I am going to read Australia Day by Stan Grant for the challenge of with. And before anyone comes at me, I literally do not own another book with the word with in the title aside from Within the Space of a Second, and I'm not reading it for this. The reason I'm reading Australia Day is because the word with is on the front cover. There is a tagline at the top that says, "As uncomfortable as it is, we need to reckon with our history. On January 26th, no Australian can really look away. So this is going to be Stan Grant reflecting on Australia Day. I haven't read Stan Grant for a little while. I love his books. I love his writing. I just love the way that he approaches all of these topics. So I am bending the rules. We're going with this. I have been through every other physical book that I own, including the anthologies, to find if there are any stories within the anthologies that have with in the title. I'm not doing it with all of the ebook anthologies, but I've been through all my physical ones. This is where we are. This is where we are. This is what it has come to. I'm almost certain not to DNF this, but the way I'm going, who knows? Hello everyone. I finished Australia Day by Stan Grant, and this was just wonderful to read. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy reading Stan Grant anyway. I think he is a very good writer. He's incredible with language and the way that he tells his story. And this is nonfiction. It's a lot of his essays and thoughts on Australia Day and what, in fact, the questions that he asks in this book really address and pose his thinking around who are we as Australians, what is our country, and how do we move forward from where we are to where we might like to be in the future. And I know when I started talking about this book in this video, I mentioned Australia Day on the 26th, and like I genuinely don't believe in Australia Day as a concept. Do I feel like as a concept we should have a day or a celebration of us as a country? Yes. Do I think it needs to be on the day that we were colonized? No. I think Stan Grant has some really measured thoughts on that concept, particularly as an Indigenous man. He is Wiradjuri and Kamilaroi and is also of Irish descent. So he lives with one foot in both black and white Australia. And throughout the book, you get this sense that he considers himself Australian and Indigenous Australian and all of what that means for him. Like, measured is the best way to describe this book, because even though there are moments in here where he's feeling frustration and anger about things that are happening and the way that Indigenous Australians are treated, the way that they are the most incarcerated people in our country, and that life expectancy is lower for Indigenous people, which all of those things are just devastating to think about. The way he talks in this book through different sections, so it's broken up into home, family, race, nation, and history and nation, and different essays and thoughts and stories that he shares within all of those categories, all leading him to unpacking those questions that he lays out for us about who are we as a country, as Australians. What does that mean to us? What do we hope for? And where do we want to be? And he's not advocating for a date change or moving Australia Day or anything like that. Like, that's not the point of this book. But Australia Day prompts those questions for him, because he talks about how he does see himself as Australian, but how he also feels conflicted in those moments as well. And I deeply appreciate his work, because as I've said many times when I read Indigenous Australian authors and poets and their work, all of it encourages and forces me in a good way, like I consider it a good way, to consider my stance and my place and my understanding of history and what I know, which is not perfect, because Australia is terminally bad at telling its own history, because we whitewash everything, because of course we do. So having these personal accounts and stories and the thinking of a range of different people and their own experiences as Indigenous Australians and what that means to them, it's so useful for me to unpack for myself. And I think Stan Grant does a really good job of encouraging people to unpack that for themselves, because he's not trying to alienate people. He wants to bring people along on the journey and have people understand in order to move forward. It's a bit like when I read the Thomas Mayo book at the start of the year in the vlog that I did on Australia Day. This book is inviting people in, and we know that is a great way to encourage people to think critically about their own beliefs and where they stand on various issues. I mean, I'm really glad that I read it. I knew I would enjoy it. It was just a matter of time when I picked it up, and I'm glad it was for this vlog. I always try and do some recommendations for books that would fit this prompt that I've read previously, and that's what we're going to go with now. All of a very different tone. None of them are non-fiction books. So there is Comfort Me with Apples by Catherynne and Valente, which is a very short little horror-esque-ish novel with religious undertones. It is delightfully disturbing and creepy. It is very much like a fairy tale, and it is about Sophia, who is the perfect wife for a man. She's literally been made for him. And as you get further into the story, you begin to realize that Sophia is very much controlled by her husband, and that the place where she lives, which is very Stepford Wives coded-esque. Anyway, there are some analogies in here. And the fairy tale is not your traditional fairy tales, but it does come from a very well-known book, and it is excellent. Like, it is fantastic. Love this book. Probably need to do a reread of it at some point so that I can Oh no, I did annotate it the first time. I probably need to go back to it and do it again. You Made a Fool of Death with Her Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. Again, this is a really fantastic read. It is a romance, but it is also so much more than that. It really does pack a significant emotional punch. Our main character is Faye. She is granted this opportunity to have this incredible holiday away from her home. It's perfect, it's picturesque, and she's going there with a guy that she knows, but when she's there, she meets this guy's father, and the two of them have this instant connection, and a kind of forbidden-esque romance develops between the two of them. It is queer, it is amazing, and it is just one of the best books I read last year. Last year? The year before. I think it was last year. Sticking with contemporary, because then I'll go into some paranormal. With You Forever by Liese. This is my favorite book in the Bergman Brothers series. We have an autistic main male character, and our female protagonist lives with a chronic illness, ulcerative colitis, and their romance is just spectacular. They are two of my favorite characters in the entire series. They end up in a bit of a marriage of convenience, and when I tell you that I read this book and I laugh and I cry and I love it so much, I definitely am behind on a reread of this because it is still to this day one of my favorites. Then I have a book from Louisa Masters, which is part of her Hidden Species series. It is queer paranormal romance. It's the second book in a series. And I honestly, there were two books I could have picked from it. I picked One Bite with a Vampire just because it's the closest to the top of the series. There is another one that is Hijinks with a Hellhound, which is hilarious because the hellhounds in this world are just chaos personified. The entire series is about a community of paranormal creatures who live together in secret under the nose of humans. Humans don't know about it. And there is a governing body called the Community of Species that kind of makes sure that the secret doesn't get out. We follow a lot of the people who work for this government agency, so they're very much government employees. And this one follows Noah, who is a human, who is one of the only humans who works for this government agency. It's a bit of a weird position to be in because everyone else who works there is some kind of paranormal being. And at one point prior to the beginning of this book, Noah had been kidnapped by some paranormal creatures. That's how he discovered the world that existed underneath his nose. And he was rescued by the people here and then ended up working with them because obviously he knew the secret. And this is his relationship with Andrew, who is a brooding vampire, and it is so fun. Like, Louisa Masters just writes fun paranormal romance. Like, you can't take them too seriously, but you just have an excellent time with them. And then last but not least is another paranormal / monster romance. It is Deal with the Demon by Chace Verity. This was my very first Chace Verity book. I still love it to this day. It is a novella. It is very short. It is the story of a single mother who accidentally summons a demon who is able to provide any kind of service that she needs, and she just needs a house husband. So he becomes a house husband demon who helps with the chores around the house and making sure the kids get to and from school and that they're, you know, cared for before and afterwards. It is so super sweet. Like, it is perfection. Where have all of the monster romance, paranormal romances this length gone that are just so enjoyable? When was this published? 2020. So 2020 was peak monster paranormal novella length where you were just getting really great stories. I haven't had many of them recently. It's really depressing. Highly recommend this. So I will be back when I have an update with Quiet in Her Bones. I need sleep. Hi everyone. It's been a while. So much time, in fact, that I forgot that I never actually finished talking about Quiet in Her Bones or wrapped up this vlog. So we're going to try and do that now. As I said earlier in the video, I was listening to Quiet in Her Bones. It was a great way to read the story. And we were following Arav, whose mother's body has turned up years after she disappeared. And he is grappling with the question of who killed her. He's an interesting character because he talks quite a lot about feeling like he's a sociopath. It has to do a lot with the way that he processes the world and the fact that he has forgotten things that have happened. And we find out later he's on quite a few drugs, and there's a reason why his memories are not feeling normal for him. But he's also, you know, states really plainly that if he ever finds out who killed his mother, he is going to do something that he's not going to regret. Nalini SIngh really tries to position him very much as an unreliable narrator, and he is. He's incredibly unreliable because he can't even trust his own memories for things. And at one point he's questioning whether he was the one who actually caused his mother's death and that he was in the car with her when her car went off the road. And so it's really interesting because eventually it gets to a point he doesn't know who to trust. He has multiple injuries over his history and he's currently injured, but he's sleepwalking and he's waking up in places where he shouldn't be, and just he's very confused about how this is all playing out. And he's got a range of professionals who are supposedly helping him, and yet he can't trust any of them. So it's really that kind of claustrophobic sort of nature of who can you trust, if anyone. And while I'm not a huge fan of thrillers as a genre anyway, like I find them, they're too stressful for me. I have enough stress in my life. I'm trying to reduce my levels of stress. I don't like having that in books, which is why I tend to gravitate away from particular books. I've talked about this many other times in other videos. Sometimes I'll just DNF a book because it's too stressful for me, because there are times and places where I can read them. This though, I mean, as an audiobook, it was pretty good because I could put it down fairly easily and I wasn't feeling like I had to get to the next point, although once you get, you know, like 3/4 of the way through the story, you kind of just want to know what's going on and who's behind everything. And so, like, I'm not a good judge of thrillers and conclusions and wrap-ups and things like that because it's just not my genre. I think it's had fairly mixed reviews in terms of how well it executes its overall vision, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And it's Nalini SIngh, so I'm just going to read her anyway. In terms of some recommendations for books with transportation on the front cover, we'll do some contemporary stuff and then we'll do some more speculative kind of things. The first one I'm going to mention, I don't have a physical copy yet. I'm picking it up when I go to Rare later this year, and that is Novel Problems by Elizabeth Luly. This is a sapphic small town romance. It is utterly delightful. There is a kayak on the front cover. There is an incredibly funny kayaking scene in this book. Highly worth checking out. Elizabeth Luly is an Australian author and she writes really fantastic sapphic romances. I've had a bit of an up and down road with some sapphic romances of late, particularly over the last 2 years, but her books, I've read 2 or 3 of them now and I enjoy all of them. Like, they're just really, really well done and I highly recommend them. Like, I can't recommend them enough. Then we have a romantic suspense book that I haven't read for a long time. It's Uncharted by Adriana, and there is a plane on the front cover. So this one has a female pilot and she is asked to evacuate a man from the wilds of Alaska, and she goes and does it, but she gets caught up in a situation that she couldn't have expected. Adriana, like, this is the follow-on from, oh God, why can't I remember it? Whiteout. It's the follow-on from Whiteout, which is a ridiculous, over-the-top romantic suspense where you have 2 main characters having to flee across the Antarctic. This time we're in Alaska and it's a similar kind of vibe except with less ice. I do need to do a reread of these books because, for as ridiculous as the plot point is in it, I just enjoy them because they're really fast-paced romantic suspense and I love a fast-paced book. Give me a fast-paced book and I will eat it up. Then we have Running Wild by K.A. Tucker, plain on the cover. This one is the 3rd book in the Simple Wild series and it is not following the main couple from the first couple of books. This is following Marie, who is a veterinarian that we meet in the first couple of books. She has a crush on the main male character for the first 2 books who falls in love with someone else, and she is the other woman in those books. And through the female protagonist from those 2 books, Marie is competition and is not seen as necessarily a likable person. However, when we get to Running Wild, this is my favorite book in the series because she's such a relatable character as a woman in her 30s who is trying to figure out her life. She wants to find love. She wants to find her person, and it just seems at every turn like she can't get it together. And then she meets a new guy in this Alaskan town who is raising sled dogs. Their relationship does not start out smooth. It's quite rocky initially, and it is how they come together. I love the character of Marie so much. She's one of my favorite female protagonists, regardless of the romance of this book. I just love how she is just trying to figure herself out and, you know, recover from, you know, an unrequited love that was never reciprocated in the same way. So, like, I just have a really soft spot for that book. Then we have a paranormal. So we have the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. There's a car here. There's also a broomstick that, you know, that could be a form of transportation as well. And this is just such a cozy paranormal fantasy romance. Like, it's just, oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. We have an isolated witch. She ends up with this quirky found family around her and it is utterly delightful. I probably should do a reread before I read Sangu Mandana's new book, but I won't. I'm just going to go straight into that and then possibly come back to this at some point. Our main character witch is hired to train 3 young witches in witchcraft and finds so much more than she expected in them and their caretaker. And I'm just, oh my God. This book will give you all the feels. If for some reason you have not read it already, because you really should have, because it was everywhere when it came out and it is as good as everyone says it is. And then I feel like this is kind of cheating because I have not read this book in a couple of years. And so I'm very sketchy on a lot of the details, but it does have a vehicle on the cover. I am going to be rereading it soon, and that is The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. This is more sci-fi speculative leaning in that We have our main character who runs across a man and a young girl in the middle of nowhere, and all three of them appear to be in need of help, and they end up traveling together. And we slowly begin to learn more about the man and the child as the story progresses through the perspective of our male protagonist point of view character. It is great. Like, I remember the first time I read it, I was just deeply, deeply immersed in this. I finished this, I'm pretty sure, before I finished the Green Creek series. Maybe. I could be wrong. I could be completely making things up. It's been a while. But when I say that I'm very excited to get back to this book, I mean it, because it gave me all the feels when I read it. So I'm very, very excited. And so that wraps up this Buzzwordathon vlog. It's had its ups and downs this month, probably more so than any other month previous to this, but we're done. We got here in the end. So if you've stuck around to the end, well done. Thanks for watching. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of these books? Are you planning on picking any of them up? Or do you have recommendations for other books that fit these challenges? Please let me know down below, because I can't believe that I have absolutely nothing on my Kindle with the word within the title that I haven't read. Does that say that it's not really much of a buzzword at the moment? I don't know. If you just want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave any kind of transportation emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.